Okay, that should be recorded. Yes, it is. Okay, perfect. All right. Good evening, everybody. This is really exciting to have you on. Thank you for coming on. It was quite last minute. It wasn't intentionally meant to be last minute. There's a few of us leaders getting together to collaborate to bring this Wellness Wednesdays education to you. And we really want to make it the best that we possibly can. So that was going on behind the scenes, and we wanted to start it though soon as well, because we know lots of you are keen to get some continued education. So here we are on our first Wellness Wednesday. We're going to be running these second and fourth Wednesday of every month. So put that in your diary. We will be sending out a schedule of the next 3 months with all the topics that we'll be covering for your convenience, so you can see what's coming up, see what interests you, invite people, of course, who you think will also benefit from that. This is open to all doTERRA customers, and it's our way of serving you and spreading the oil love and just helping you to really realize all the different ways you can use your oils. At the same time, we don't want it to be overwhelming. So we are going to be covering different topics, and we'll always be referring back to the basics. Okay. So if you've got the kit of 10 core oils, or whatever you started with, you'll be able to spot how you can use those oils in most of the topics that we'll be talking about. And just go with your heart and just, go bit by bit into what's the next step for you. Okay. And always going back to the foundational health. And the presentation tonight is also going to be covering one of the really important things, as well as the toxins in the home. We've got a couple of presentations on that because that is so important. And so going back to that On Guard concentrate that is just so good at getting rid of loads of things, toxic things in your home. So next week, just before I introduce tonight's amazing presenter, not next week, the next call, which is in 2 Wednesdays' time, the fourth Wednesday of this month, we have Dr. Lucy. She is coming on to do the foundational health presentation. So we'll be advertising that very soon after this one, so that you know what the next topic is. And tonight I want to introduce the wonderful Alison. Alison is an incredible lady who I got to properly meet a year ago. She's such a giving person. She's really knowledgeable as well. She's come from Australia. She's been a wonderful gift to us here in the UK. She came across doTERRA pretty much at the beginning. And she was one of those people, you might relate to this, that had the kit for 2.5 years in the cupboard, wasn't quite sure what to do with it. So this is what we don't want to happen, which is why we're putting on these continued educations to really encourage you and give you the confidence you need to use them. Alison's now been teaching the oils for 11 years. She specializes, her passion is the Ditch and Switch program, which is getting toxins out of your home. So she's founded a wonderful program with that, which is really inspiring. And her family traveled around Australia in a van, 5 of them, during the COVID time. So she's cool as well and up for adventures. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Alison, who is going to be talking tonight about our wellness wake up. So thank you, Alison. Over to you. And please put any questions in the chat, and I will do my best to answer them throughout the call.
Thank you so much, Becky. That's so lovely. I'm going to tell my kids that you called me cool. That's it. It's decided. Amazing. So yeah, today we're going to be talking. I'm so excited, by the way, about these Wellness Wednesdays, and how brilliant that to be here on the first one, sharing some little bits about low-tox living. So this is your wellness wake-up call, and what are your choices costing you? And of course, when we're thinking about this, you're here, you're already using doTERRA. So often it's like, how can we maybe portray some of this information to other people who maybe think they're living a natural lifestyle, but maybe need some more information. So maybe it gives you some inspiration on how to talk to them as well. So here's the cupboard. This is the cupboard that, well, actually the cupboard wasn't as pretty as this, but yeah, I bought the oils, and 2.5 years they sat in a cupboard. After my sister-in-law, basically, wouldn't stop, the verbal diarrhea, doTERRA spiel. When you get passionate about the oils, she kept talking about them. And so I literally bought the kit just to shut her up, really. And I actually bought them retail because I was so skeptical of the whole MLM thing. So I put them in there for 2.5 years. I thought I was a pretty natural mum already. I didn't really need them. I had a home birth. I like to pick out products that said natural. I was very conscious about food and mindful of my kids with screens and made sure they played outside. And, I considered myself a crunchy mum, really. And now I look back at that version of myself and I think, oh my goodness, I had so much to learn. And we're all on a journey. And I'll probably look back at this version of me and think, oh, she had so much to learn. And it is a never-ending journey. And it's just looking at that, what's that next step for us? So what I've noticed though is that there are plenty of people that do use doTERRA oils, and I might visit their home and find that they're still using like a toxic hand wash, or they're using the oils to make a lovely face serum, but then still wearing perfume, or there's all sorts of things that might be in their home that they actually don't realize yet, actually, that they could be using the oils for them as well. And we often slip back to our default ways of doing things. So it's good to be reminded of the ways that we can use them, and that they are so powerful and so versatile. And actually, the same oil can be used in so many different areas out the home. So let's get them out of the cupboard and let's get using them. So we often hear this saying, there's an oil for that. You've probably heard that when people have wellness concerns come up. We always say, oh, there's an oil for that. But it's not just for health concerns. It's actually all around the home. Like, just start looking around the home. Could I replace this product with something, with oils? Yeah. It's just because we've always done something one way, doesn't mean we can't start looking at them in a different way. So looking at this low-tox, way of living. I know for me, when I first started sort of discovering this low-tox, what I found was that the low-tox way of doing things, the natural way, often, things like organic food and natural skincare brands and eco-cleaning products, they often have that higher financial price tag, and they're often marketed as premium and sold in boutique stores. Sometimes we think, that it's an expensive way of living, and sometimes not as effective. I used to use natural products that weren't as good, but they were more expensive. So we're going to have a look at what is the true cost of switching to low-tox. So if you're here, you probably already have at least the top 10 oils in the starter kit, and probably more. And you'll already know that they are an investment upfront. But when we break it down and you start using them, you see, well, there's actually 250 drops in that 15 ml bottle. And it can really have such an impact when we start to use them, not only as our plant medicine, but for our cleaning and our laundry products, and for our body products, and for our emotional support, and then for our gut health, and for our skincare, and for our food flavoring. When we see that the same oils can service so many different areas of the home, and they go so far, it really does become really economical. So starting with looking at some first aid comparisons. Now, I just want to apologize up front. I do have half UK, half Australian team, so my slides have catered to everybody. So just ignore the Australian cost here. And also with regards to the brands, there's no brand shaming intended here. It's just an example. They're pretty much all the same. So it's not trying to go, this brand's particularly bad. It's just a typical brand, and I've just picked one. So we look up here for a straight up cost comparison, and we can see if we were to get a little bit of heat on our skin, it's going to cost about 69p per application for one that we might buy from the pharmacy. But if we just use a little drop of lavender oil, it costs 13p. So straight up, just looking at the cost benefit analysis, we can see that it is cheaper financially. But what's the real cost? Because it's not just financial. We actually need to start looking at what we're putting on our bodies. So, there we go. There it is. So I use something called the Chemical Maze app. Hopefully you've heard of the Chemical Maze app. If you haven't, it's brilliant. It's about £7 or £4, I think, maybe in the UK. And you can put in any ingredient and it churns out a little happy face or a sad face, depending on the research that's available for that. So I love the Chemical Maze app. I love ewg.org as well. I'm not such a huge fan of the Yucca app. It's so convenient. You can just scan that barcode, but it doesn't take into account dosages. So if anything's got essential oils in it, at high doses, essential oils can obviously they might not be safe. And so pretty much anything with essential oils in it deems unsafe, which makes it really difficult when you're trying to look at doTERRA products or things with oils in. So I tend to avoid Yucca, but I love Chemical Maze and I love EWG. So I've put all these products through, all the ingredients through the chemical maze app. And so you can see some of them aren't even in there, but we've got about 2,000 synthetic man-made chemicals being added to Earth every year. So, sometimes the research takes time to catch up with what man's creating. So we can see straight up, I'm not going to go into obviously all the ingredients, but we can see this has got petrolatum, which is from petroleum, which is a probable human carcinogen. It's got benzalkonium chloride, which is also from petroleum. It's not good for those with asthma allergies or any skin ailments. And we aren't going to dig down into all of these, but you can see briefly just from the happy and sad faces, a really good overview, a visual overview of how a product is made up. So by contrast, we can see that a drop of lavender essential oil is exactly that. It's just a pure drop of Mother Earth. And I've had some amazing experiences personally when I've pulled something hot out the oven and it's caught my skin, and I've run it under some cold water and then put some lavender on, and it's absolutely amazing for soothing that heat. Or putting it in my after sun spray, and we've got no toxins, and obviously it's much cheaper as well. I also sometimes will just put, if I say I've hurt my finger, I'll just put a drop of lavender in a glass of water and just swirl that around, just, maybe I'm watching TV or something, just to keep that swishing around on my skin. All these recipes that I'm sharing today are in a cheat sheet that I'll share at the end that you can download as well. Free. So looking at a chest rub, again, we can see very quick analysis of a store-bought one, about £8.50 compared to making your own for £2.50. Yes, it is a bit more expensive to buy the doTERRA one, but that's to be expected when you are looking at what is actually in these products. So again, we can see that petrolatum is listed. That's that probable human carcinogen. It's got turpentine. That's basically paint stripper, which the caution for that is to always use in well-ventilated areas. The fumes can be harmful. Avoid skin contact, which is funny considering it's recommended to go on the skin. Keep away from open flames. It's highly flammable. And then when we look at the eucalyptus oil that's in there, that is not going to be, it's going to be a synthetic version of the oil. It's going to be nothing like doTERRA's eucalyptus. And we're rubbing this on the body. It's actually advised not to put it on anyone under the age of 2. Yet what I've seen in mum communities is this is very widely used on even babies. So obviously, if you want to make your own, it's considerably cheaper. But if you want to buy a really low tox version, the doTERRA one is really beautiful and really cost effective, using all those gorgeous natural ingredients. So some more first aid, looking at something like tummy support. So focusing on babies again, this is a widely used colic remedy. And we can see it's so much cheaper just to make a little remedy with our essential oils. But what's the real cost? Here, what are we rubbing? What are we giving our babies? So methyl hydroxybenzoate E218 and propyl hydroxybenzoate E216 are preservatives that may cause allergic reactions, and we don't even know for some of it. It's got zaccharin, which is shown to have metabolic and gut effects. There's also limited data on that. And for hyperemelos, the safety and efficacy in children and adolescents aged less than 18 years have not yet been established. So we don't know if it's any good, but we do know that it's not good for you. And we could just use a couple of drops of Zengest or 1 drop of Zengest and rub that in some carrot oil over the belly, and all those beautiful peppermint, ginger, fennel, caraway, anise, tarragon, all Mother Nature's remedy for our tummy is right there without any of those dangerous ingredients. So moving on to cleaning products, we can see again, sorry, I've got an Australian version here. So we've got the Australian, the UK, and then a homemade version. And we can see up front how much cheaper it is to make our own cleaning sprays. And just on a side note, I absolutely love hearing from people when they switch to making their own cleaning things, because they always talk about how good they feel when they're cleaning because of all the emotional benefits of all the uplifting oils. And what a wonderful thing to be feeling good while we're cleaning our kitchen. It doesn't get much better than that. But what is the real cost of using the store-bought? So we can see here, obviously very, very boring to go through all of these individually, but you can see the overview of the smiley faces and sad faces. And I just remember when I first switched to doTERRA to make my cleaning products, that I was really worried they wouldn't be as effective. So because I bought those natural products previously and they just hadn't been as good and they had been more expensive, I was a bit dubious. But when I started using the doTERRA products, and you've probably found this as well, you found actually they clean amazingly. And when you actually look into it, they are incredibly powerful. They don't just smell nice and stop us using the toxins, but actually they are incredibly powerful. So there's a study on PubMed that shows that the On Guard actually in a lab setting eliminates the H1N1 which is the flu virus, by 96%. So hugely powerful in terms of eliminating those pathogens. And I just want to show you a quick slide here. This is a study or a test done showing some American brands of bleach and industrial grade cleaners. And there's a beautiful doctor in Germany, Dr. Alexandra Nietzsche, I think her name is, and she's done some amazing studies with chicken poo and mold and all different types of pathogens. And she's compared all these literal hospital grade cleaners compared to the On Guard blend. And every single time the On Guard blend outperforms all these cleaners that are out there. So it's all very well saying, oh yeah, but yeah, they smell nice and yeah, we're not using the toxins, but they are actually working. They're incredibly powerful. So our laundry, so here there's so many ingredients in this laundry powder that it takes up the whole screen. I can't even do a comparison here. And there's so many things that we could talk about. But one of the ones I want to highlight is actually fragrance. So fragrance is actually an umbrella term for about 3,000 different chemical compounds. And fragrance is such an important thing to the human experience. It really does, bring on physical and emotional reaction in a human. So it's why it's added to pretty much every single product. But actually the term fragrance is legally protected as a trade secret. So companies can use pretty much anything they want, and it just falls under that umbrella of fragrance or parfum. So often they'll use phthalates as fragrance extenders. So it just makes the smell last longer. We know with our essential oils, if we put them on as perfume, by the end of the day, they've generally disappeared. And that's what real smell does. Real oils will dissipate into the air. They want to get inside our brains and they want to get out and play. But when we see adverts for laundry powder saying, you pull open the drawer and 6 months later, my sheets still smell fresh and lovely. Well, they have definitely got phthalates in, because that's not normal. That's not natural. And things like we love buying clothing off Vinted, and we sometimes have to soak it in vinegar and bicarb and wash it 5 or 6 times to get rid of those fragrance smells. So many health concerns linked with fragrance. So hormone disruption is a huge one. A lot of people with allergic reactions. We've got so many people with polyps and asthma and all these problems, and with loading our bodies with fragrances, and it causes cellular disruption and oxidative stress, and also headaches and migraines. And the thing about laundry powder is that we're pretty much always connected to something that's got laundry powder. I mean, unless you're a nudist, but we won't go there. But whether it's clothing, the bed sheets, your towels, we are always wearing something that's been washed. And so having those toxins next to our skin all day, every day, and all night, it's a really powerful thing, either in a good way or a bad way. So what's the alternative? You can make your own laundry powder or laundry liquid as well. I love soap nuts. You can just buy soap nuts, search them on eBay, or there is actually soapnuts.co.uk. Put a couple of drops of oil on the little bag that you can see, you put them in, and they clean brilliantly. Or there's the amazing On Guard laundry detergent, and you literally just use a teaspoon of that and it goes so far. So the cost of that is actually, if you're just using a teaspoon, which really does work for a whole load, it works out really well priced for how good a job it does. So what are the ingredients? We can see completely clean when we make our own. In any products, we do have to add a preservative. So there's an OK preservative. It's the best one that will work with the doTERRA one there. They always choose the best option that they possibly can. But you can see here how much cleaner all of those are than the store-bought one. So moving on to cleaning wipes. So much cheaper to make our own, but what's the real cost? Again, we've got the benzalkonium chloride and parfum, which is fragrance. And then moving on to skincare. So again, all these recipes are all shared later. So I've put care in inverted commas here because I can assure you that these brands do not care about your skin, that they do not care about you or me. And this is such an important topic because these products we're literally putting onto our skin. That's our largest organ, and they're getting absorbed into the cells in our body. So it's really important that we're looking at what's actually in them and what's the real cost. Gosh, this these types of things, again, just not picking any particular one, just the first one that showed up on Google, but this is the extent of product of the ingredients that are in there. Many of them questionable, unknown, and we've got some horrible ones in there as well. And the thing about these is that a lot of these ingredients are what's called xenoestrogens. I'm not going to go into it too much, but every cell in our body has estrogen cell receptors. And these chemicals, the molecular shape of them is the same as estrogen. And so it tricks our cells into receiving these molecules and thinks that they're estrogen. So they are literally going inside our cells. And we have so many problems with hormone disruption and hormone imbalance in our society, and we're putting so many of these hormonally disruptive molecules and chemicals on our body, and then people wonder why. And I don't understand. We're doing everything right. I'm using really lovely skincare. It can't be anything like that, but it is so easy to make our own skincare with just some beautiful carrot oil and some beautiful essential oils like frankincense, or you just keep it really simple. Any of the beautiful even just from our starter kit, the frankincense, lavender, and tea tree are just such powerful and beautiful supportive oils for our skin. And just putting them with the fractionated coconut oil, or if you like a little bit of castor oil in there, that's fine too. Or jojoba here is a really lovely one as well. And deodorant. So again, not picking any particular brand, but this particular brand looks very clean and pure and like it would be quite a natural version. But we can make our own, which I do love to make my own, but we go through so much of it with 5 of us in the house. And I actually really love the doTERRA deodorant. I haven't found one that goes on as smoothly, and I love that it's Balance or the Citrus Bliss, and I just feel so good with it. So I absolutely love buying the doTERRA one. But what's the real cost to buying the one from the shops? Here you can see very visually again, just the difference in the ingredients. It's really, really important that we steer away from aluminium in deodorants and antiperspirants. Our pits are literally our super highway into our bloodstream and also into our breast tissue, into the breast glands. So if there's one swap to make, if you're prioritizing one thing, this really would be it. And it just reminds me, when I started this journey and I started reading things like this, I'm thinking, surely a brand like that must be safe. Surely if it's on the shop shelves, it must be okay. Surely the government or regulatory bodies are monitoring to make sure I'm okay. And whilst there is some limited regulation, that regulation comes around each individual ingredient. So in small doses, we might take one of these ingredients and say, well, in the minute amount that it's in this deodorant, it's not going to cause any harm. It's such a small amount. But nobody's looking at, well, there's that ingredient in there, and there's also this one, and there's also this one, and there's also this one. And when we put them together, what sort of product does that make? And then we're saying, well, there's all these chemicals in the deodorant, but we've also got chemicals in my shampoo and conditioner and my body wash and my body lotion and my laundry powder and my toothpaste and my mouthwash and my makeup and my perfume and my hand wash and my dish soap, etc., etc. So who's looking at what that cumulative effect is of all these different products that we're being told to put onto our body every single day? And these are products that we are then using every single day. So what's the effect of not only using all the different products, but using them back to back, day after day, over a whole lifespan? And that's really, really where the problems start to come in. So our last 2 examples, we've got baby wipes. It's the same deal. What's the real cost? We've got some horrible ingredients in there. We're literally programming our babies from birth to be having these hormonally disruptive ingredients on when it's so easy and actually cheaper to make our own. And finally, sunscreen. Again, so much cheaper to make our own. And what's the real cost is these types of ingredients. So since putting these slides together, doTERRA has, of course, released their amazing sunscreen range. So that's a brilliant way of avoiding the toxins and being able to make our own as well. So just really quick on greenwashing. You're probably already aware of the term, but greenwashing is when a company uses marketing to make a product appear more eco-friendly or more natural. But it often uses things like green colored packaging or like plant-based and leaves and that sort of things. But actually they aren't telling the truth. It's just a marketing strategy. So some examples here, I'll just give you the first one, but there's a spray here. It says our fragrances smell as natural and simple as authentic as possible. We're fresh and kind, light kind of folk. Overpowering isn't our thing, but it still contains perfume, like the fragrance, parfum, and non-ionic surfactants. So this is a really common thing to watch out for when we're actually trying to switch to low tox is to not just believe what's on the label, but actually look into it, use things like the Chemical Maze app. And likewise with essential oils, you're already here, you understand the doTERRA difference. Um, but we can see here, this is the number one selling oil on Amazon, essential oil on Amazon. There were 30,000 bought in the last month. That shows people are turning to essential oils. People are wanting to make those healthier, better choices. And, you know, when someone can buy a £9 bottle of essential oil and it says pure and it says well, Bulgarian grown and 100% natural and premium grade, and it's just $9 or £9. I think that's even dollars. But you can see on the right, there's a post from Dr. S, who works for the APRC, and he's analysed this, and it's 90% solvent, even though it says 100% pure on the bottle, and that's the number one best-selling oil. So it's our duty to really show people, because people are wanting this. This is how 30,000 people are buying this a month, but they're not knowing and understanding. And when we talk to doTERRA, we often hear people say things like, does anyone want to say, what do I hear a lot is, ooh, that's expensive. And that seems to be that first thing. And if you don't actually think about it, yes, £31 does seem like a lot compared to the £9 you can buy it on Amazon. But expensive compared to what? You know, £31 compared to £9 for a bottle of solvent. Or £5, you know, might seem cheap for a bottle of after sun, but if it's a completely synthetic version, it might seem cheaper to grab the £5 spray. But remember, these little bottles of oil have 250 drops. And we can make up so many different remedies and products across the home. So this one bottle can make up an after sun spray and a sleep remedy and a burn salve and an insect bite soother and an anxiety roller or anxious feelings. It can be used as an antihistamine, can be taken internally. We can make lavender lemonade or bliss balls, and we can make face serum with it. We can use it in bath salts, etc., etc. And then we would still only have used about 10% of the bottle. So if these oils are sitting unused on your shelf or in your cupboard, or if you're someone says, "Oh, well, I've got all the oils now," then I just really encourage you to look at how you can really use them right across your home and truly making an impact for your health. Because these oils aren't something to collect. You know, they are something to use and create a positive impact right across your home, to use as medicine, use them for your cleaning, use them to nourish our body, use them for emotional support, helping us keep calm, help us with sleep and focus and cleansing our bodies. And you know, you don't say, oh, we don't buy toothpaste and say, well, I've got all the flavors now. I don't need to buy toothpaste anymore. If you are using it, you will run out. So it is really important that you are using it right across your home. So just want to remind you that the easiest and quickest way to order more oils is through the Loyalty Rewards program, and there's a link to the video there. It gives you so many points and things for free when you order your oils. And as promised, here is the link to the cheat sheet with all the recipes from the examples shared today.
That is amazing start. Thank you so much, Alison. That was just fantastic. And just really a great reminder of what we've got with doTERRA, like all the gifts that doTERRA gives us, all these options. Because, you know, until I found doTERRA, I was aware of some of the things you shared tonight, not all of those things. And I didn't have any choice. You know, you kind of have to use something. So this is the empowering thing that doTERRA brings us, and just you emphasizing there really, you know, how we can't afford not to get rid of these things. You know, they're impacting our health. And so this is the lifestyle that doTERRA gives us. So thank you, Alison. That's fantastic. I'm just going to stop the recording.